Welcome to the May Division III webinar. I'm Grace Hadlick, and today I will be joined by Louise McCleary and Jeff Myers. A few reminders before we get started. The PowerPoint is available now on the Division III page on ncaa.org. The recording will be available by the end of this week and will be sent out to all who have registered. To ask questions, use the Q&A function at the top of your screen, and we will answer them at an appropriate time. Let's get started. Today, I will cover the SAAC updates. Then I will pass it over to Jeff to cover council updates. Then Louise will close out our webinar with some Division III updates, association-wide updates, and a few reminders. Now for our Division III Student Athlete Advisory Committee updates. I'm excited to walk you through some important national SAAC updates as we close out another impactful year. We've built a lot of momentum behind the scenes, and I can't wait to share the work that we have been focused on and the progress we made throughout the year. I'm excited to introduce our National SAAC 2026-2027 Executive Board, a group of student athletes who exemplify leadership, service, and a deep commitment to advancing the student athlete experience across Division III. Our chair, Josie Johnson from Capital University and the Ohio Athletic Conference, a cross-country and track and field student athlete. Our vice chair, Dom Petrozelli from Newman University in the Atlantic East Conference, a former soccer student athlete. Holly Hall, our communications director from Alma College and representing the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association, a former tennis student athlete. Together, this leadership team is committed to elevating student athletes' voice, strengthening communication, and continuing to build meaningful impact across the division in the year ahead. All primary national SAAC representatives are encouraged to take the following steps to strengthen their communication and collaboration across Division III. 1, introduce themselves to their respective campus and conference SAAC advisors. 2, collect and maintain updated contact information. And 3, focus on building meaningful relationships, prioritizing connection and collaboration over simple networking. The full list of updated conference representatives can be found on the Division III SAAC page on ncaa.org. Division III week recap. The committee reviewed engagement data across Division III social media platforms during Division III week, highlighting strong overall reach and participation. Representatives also shared a wide range of activities and initiatives led by campuses and conference SAACs that successfully celebrated the Division III week and reinforced the core values of Division III athletics within their community. Our Special Olympics 15th anniversary celebration. As part of the 15th anniversary celebration with our partnership, Division III SAACs saw strong engagement across social media initiatives. Our featured campaign, each like on a designated Instagram post, equated to a $1 donation to Special Olympics North America. We're very proud to share that through this activation, we have contributed over $10,000 to Special Olympics North America. It's been exciting to see the strong engagement from our membership, as well as the continued use of our new 15th anniversary branding to promote awareness and participation across campuses and conferences. If you have not done so yet, please make sure to report the Division III week events and the Special Olympics reporting form. Both can be found on the Division III specific web pages. This information is essential in helping us accurately track engagement and highlight the impact of your efforts across the division. Now, let's take a look at updates from our SAAC subcommittees. This year, SAAC members have done an outstanding job developing and sharing impactful content focused on education, engagement, and the student-athlete experience. Our mental and physical health subcommittee focused on the theme of life after sport, highlighted by a very successful virtual town hall held in November featuring a guest speaker from Mental Health First Aid. The group continues to be passionate about promoting mental and physical well-being by providing resources, facilitating meaningful conversations, and consistent weekly educational content shared across social media. Our D3 download serves as your one-stop shop for all things Division III. This group has done an excellent job producing accessible and engaging content, including the Division III sport crash courses, guidance on how to make most of Convention Week, and then resources that help explain the Division III governance structure. And finally, congressional engagement has been hard at work helping campuses and conferences engage with legislators in meaningful and impactful ways. Their effort continues to highlight the true value of Division III student athletes and elevate awareness of the division model at the national level. To follow along and to stay involved, be sure to follow Division III SAAC on Instagram and X, engage with, reshare, and celebrate the work that we're doing, and always remember the power of SAAC starts with us. As always, let's go Division III, and now I'll turn it over to Jeff Myers for the council updates.
Grace, thank you very much, and wonderful job as always. I get to go through a few of the council updates from the spring meetings. Before I do that, just want to provide a quick reminder. Regional Rules is next week. It's in Atlanta, but we do also have a virtual option. The virtual option this year will satisfy your membership requirement for your once in 3 years attendance. So if you do it virtually, make sure you check on the QR code. So you'll get emails, there'll be reminder emails this week, end of this week into next week. It will have the links for the live stream. Once you get on the live streams and we get into the sessions, there will be QR codes. You click on the QR codes at any point in time during those sessions, that's what will record your attendance and count for the attendance for the Regional Rules requirement. One additional thing, if you're logging on Friday morning for the Regional Rules, there are 2 rooms, 2 sessions, so make sure you click into the one that you want to attend and want to observe. For our council updates, the first one is the eligibility waiver program. So last year, President's Council approved an eligibility pilot waiver program. The program allowed, under certain conditions, for student athletes to complete their participation in Division III for their Division III institution, even though they are enrolled at another institution. The primary conditions that applied there were, 1, that there was an academic relationship between the student athlete's Division III institution and the school they're attending, and the school that they're attending does not have a varsity athletics program. There are other conditions to allow this participation, and it requires a waiver through the Subcommittee for Legislative Relief. Those other conditions can be found on NCAA.org as well. The purpose of this pilot program was to evaluate the changing nature of higher ed, the progress that student athletes are on, and how to match their athletics participation with their academic path. We had 5 waivers over the last year that the subcommittee reviewed. Based on that review, they recommended to Management Council that it continues to next year to continue to evaluate whether this is a worthwhile process to explore. The councils did, in fact, extend it for another year. Next are some of the non-controversial pieces of legislation Management Council approved. The first one has to do with men's water polo. So if you're one of the 17 or so institutions that sponsor men's water polo, be aware that the start of the season, the first week of the contest, is different this year. This is to match the first opportunity to compete with Divisions 1 and 2, being a national collegiate sport, and allowing those competitions to occur the first weekend. It also established a consistent process for determining the first practice by applying the 16 practice units that all other fall sports apply. The next one has to do with manufacturer logos. Division 1 changed the minimum size for manufacturer logos on uniforms from 2¼ inches to 4 square inches. Based on that change, Division 3 also recommended and council approved a change to the maximum size up to 4 square inches, with the concern that if they didn't change that or make that increase, there may be possible challenges with getting uniforms that are compliant with the previous legislation. And the last non-controversial proposal came from the nominating committee. And again, this was approved by Management Council that would allow, if an individual is taking over a term for another committee member and they're from the same conference and they're less than 2 years on that term, that person could be reappointed even though they're from the same conference. And then the last piece I want to address has to do with name, image, and likeness. At the 2006 for 2026 convention, proposal number 3 was a resolution that directed the President's Council and the governance structure to review NIL at Division III. What is going on in the college climate regarding NIL, how that's impacting Division III, and what's the right place and what's needed for Division III. Based on that resolution, committees recommended and council approved, President's Council ultimately approved the formation of a working group to assess the situation in NIL, give feedback to the membership at convention, and then ultimately determine if any potential changes to legislation, best practices, or resources. So that review will be happening over the next year. Working group will be formed over the next several weeks, and they'll begin their work this summer. And with that, I will turn it over to Louise, who is celebrating a birthday this week. So Louise, happy birthday and enjoy.
Thank you, Jeff. I hit a milestone last year, so now it's just, cruising through life. But thank you for the birthday wishes. Thanks for all of you for joining. Jeff's update leads right into the Division III analysis, and I just want to reiterate that if you have questions, there's a Q&A function. Please put it into there. We'll answer as many questions as possible. So this slide recaps slightly. Back in October, the President's Council endorsed to have a narrowly focused analysis of the division. There were different tensions that they were hearing about from segments throughout the entire division, and they said, now's a good time to do an analysis. What they said, though, during that October meeting is that it was really important not to repeat work that had already been done by the division. And what they were referencing was a financial review that was done in 2024, a review of our grants and programs that was also completed in 24, and then the work of the philosophy statement working group, and ultimately a vote by the division. So what President's Council did is they kicked off this analysis at the 2026 convention. We had about 1,000 delegates at the issues forum, and during that issues forum, they identified tension points. Convention came to a close. What President's Council did in late January and in February is that they solicited from the membership those who might be interested in serving on a working group. They ended up selecting 19 individuals to be on that working group. They felt that they were representative of the division: small schools, big schools, private, public, success in NCAA championships, those who were just having success in their conferences, geographic diversity. And so that working group got their work started in March, and then they had an in-person meeting in April. But to assist the working group with this analysis, what President's Council also did is they hired a contractor to work hand in hand with the working group, who will be ultimately reporting back to President's Council. To date, the consultant has had over almost 20 different stakeholder engagement sessions. And then all of the ADs that might be listening in, if there are any commissioners listening in, they also have recently been sent a survey to continue to collect feedback on these identified tensions. So Brent, if you go to the next slide, what this slide shows are the different tensions that were identified by those 1,000 delegates that were at the 2026 convention. I will not go into detail about each one. These are not in priority order, but what I will do is direct you to the D3 analysis working group webpage. So if you go to nca.org, you go to our Division III membership page, you'll see in the far left side a link that says Division III analysis. You can click on there, and what it will have are the agendas and the reports from the working group, as well as an executive summary from that issues forum, in addition to some other resources. It will list out in you from that April 20th report these 6 tensions and what feedback has been heard from the initial stakeholder engagements. I'll say it again. That survey has been sent out to athletic directors and commissioners. The deadline is this Thursday. We really are looking for as many Division III voices as possible to weigh in on these 6 tensions, because that will help inform the working group and its efforts to come up with actionable solutions that it can forward on to President's Council. I would think that President's Council will get that first look at some of those solutions. The consultant that's been hired will have finished their work, but the working group will continue its work. It will continue to have video conferences. They have an in-person meeting in June. There'll probably be another in-person meeting in the fall as we lead towards the 2027 convention, where we'll be able to report out and continue to get feedback from the membership regarding these tensions and what are the best paths forward to find solutions. So Brent, if you go to the next slide, I'm going to totally shift gears, but I wanted to give you a few championship updates that were discussed at Management Council. And on this slide, there are primarily 2 updates. One, the Championships Committee, I would say over the last 3 or 4 meetings, has been looking at championship ticket prices for select preliminary round team championships. And initially, they received a proposal that said, okay, do we have the right minimum championship ticket prices? And what the Championships Committee thought, and the Management Council in April agreed to, is it really doesn't make sense that if you have Institution A playing one week at a certain price to see the game, that price could change the next week. And so they have been working with our championship staff and branding and marketing to say, instead of a minimum championship ticket price, how about a standard ticket price? Management Council received that update in April, did not have any concerns. So now it will go back to the Championships Committee, and we anticipate either out of their May or June meeting that they will finalize what those standard prices are for, as I mentioned, select team championships that would go into effect next year with the 26-27 championships. The other thing that the Championships Committee has really been talking a lot about is NPI. We are now in year 2 of using the NPI. We said to the sport committees, you would have 2 years of using NPI before you could recommend any changes to the dials. Now that we're coming up with the conclusion of year 2, the fall and the winter sport committees will have to submit any dial changes to the Championships Committee by their June meeting. For spring sports, they have a deadline of the August Championships Committee meeting. The Championships Committee is the one that will review any dial request. If they are approved, they will not go into effect until 27-28. So not this coming year, but the following year. And the other thing we've heard from the membership institutions, conference offices, and just fans in general is, could staff create an educational webinar so that those who are following along can better understand NPI and how that works? We anticipate releasing that educational video, hopefully in July, but no later than August. And that will live on ncaa.org. We go to the next slide. Just a quick update about live streaming. We did this last year as well. All of our team championships, or most of our team championships, are now live streamed. Every game, every round, both our individual and our team. We've always had our final championships live streamed. There is no paywall for those live streams. Starting last spring, every single one of our Division III championships is now promoted through the NCAA fan database that has over 21 million individuals that are part of that database. So it's a great way to promote Division III. It's shown in the fall, we had a 73% increase in our live streams. And so far for the winter, we've seen a 13% increase. And what you see on the slide regarding those 14 million minutes of live content, what it is missing are the ESPN Plus numbers. So keep in mind, women's basketball, that was on the semifinals, and the championship was on ESPN Plus. And because this year men's basketball had a joint championship and the quarterfinals and the semis were all together, both the quarterfinals and the semifinals were on ESPN Plus, as well as the championship. So that number of 14 million we know will increase, which means that similar to the fall, we've had excellent live streaming numbers. And what we continue to hear is that those live streams without a paywall, all of those extra viewers really are positively impacting the division's brand. And it's been an excellent marketing tool for us. We go to the next slide. Yep. So Division III works off a 2-year budget cycle. We are currently in year 2 of our current cycle. So that means it's a budget planning year. So strategic planning and finance takes the lead on making budget recommendations. They had a meeting in March. During that March meeting, they heard from championships, what the championships committee is looking at in terms of new budget recommendations for FY27 and FY28. Things they heard about from championships: should we increase per diem again? So that if you make the NCAAs, there's more money to go towards meals and lodging. Every 2 years, we have an increase for officials. That's in their budget, initial budget recommendations. And then we also heard from the championships committee that there's a recommendation to continue to provide a host, a grant for hosts so that they can live stream, that should continue. SPFC also heard around the enrichment fund. They heard from the Commissioners Association with a proposal to help offset web platform fees that are going up. They heard from Nadia, our athletic directors group, to say, could there be more money for grants and for mentoring of new ADs? They heard from the Division III Sports Information Directors Group to say, is there a way to help offset costs for NCAA championships around photography? How do we get high quality photos quickly so those can be used by conference offices and those institutions that are participating in our championships? In addition to those, SPFC talked about, do we continue the health and safety grant that we've had for the last 2 years to provide $2,000 to our institutions to offset health and safety expenses? And then also they're considering a similar type grant, but for athletic communication departments. Strategic planning and finance gave those first set of recommendations to the councils to review in April. They will meet again in June, and then the councils during their summer meetings will finalize the Division III budget as we start our new budget on September 1st. A few association-wide updates. So if you remember back in early February, the top 5 on campuses, so presidents and chancellors, ADs, senior women administrators, compliance directors, and faculty athletic representatives, as well as conference commissioners, received a survey. And what the survey was seeking was feedback from everybody in the association regarding association-wide programs and services, not Division III programs and services, but those that are funded by the association. So the membership had an opportunity to complete that survey. We had a response rate across all 3 divisions of just under 40%. And so what it did is it ranked those programs and services in terms of, yes, this is very important, impactful for our campuses or conferences, to it's less impactful. It's less important. And so now what the councils did during their April meetings is they reviewed that feedback, and President's Council, working hand in hand with the Management Council, is going to make recommendations to the Board of Governors Finance and Audit Committee to say, here's what we heard from the membership. We know that this survey is looking to find ways to have savings from the national office in this association-wide space. Here are the areas that, based on that feedback, President's Council is recommending to the Board of Governors, Finance and Audit, and ultimately the Board of Governors, that these are the programs and services that they would recommend preserving. And there are others that they're saying they're important, but maybe there are ways that they could be given in a different manner to produce some savings. We anticipate the Board of Governors making a final decision by their early August, and we would expect that there will be some changes to the association-wide programs and services starting with the FY27 budget and beyond. I have about 3 minutes, so we'll see if we can get through the next two updates in that. From the Sports Science Institute, 3 things that the councils heard in April. One was from our chief medical officer, really her vision. It's around membership education, continuing what we call spotlight webinars. They've been on mental health, sleep, nutrition, also ways that SSI can make sure that we have campus level engagement. The other thing that has been ongoing for a couple of years, Division III has been a leader in this space. We created a working group, but how do we continue to work with athletic trainer organizations? How do we develop mentoring pipelines? How do we find ways to advocate for athletic trainers and the work they're doing? And then also for SSI to be able to produce different models of how healthcare could be delivered depending on where you are, the resources you have, but different models that would still make sure that we're taking care of our student athletes. And then finally, also the council's heard that there has been the creation of a new advisory group. This advisory group is working on prevention and harm reduction strategies. So think substance related, addictive behaviors. The one that we've talked a lot about recently is gambling. They will look to make recommendations that will work its way through the governance structure, get membership feedback, and ultimately be unveiled more than likely with the start of the 2027-28 academic year. And in my last minute, what I will give, oh, that's it. That was my last slide. So I'm not sure we have time for questions. But as I wrap this up, if there's anything that you would like to put in the Q&A for myself, Grace, or Jeff, please do that. When you will find this PowerPoint, and by the end of the week, you will also find the recording on the Division III webinar page. What you will see when you look at this PowerPoint are there 2 slides regarding reminders. One is around our mental health first aid program. Just a reminder that we will pay for up to 30 individuals on each campus to be trained in mental health first aid. And you have all the way until August of 27 to schedule or get that training. And then the other reminder is that Management Council changed its policies. And what we're saying is that for every new student, not the ones that are returning, but any new student that is coming to your campus, we are recommending that you have them get an NCA identification number through the Eligibility Center. That's it. I am not seeing any questions. We are at 2 o'clock on the nose. Many of you are in your spring conference championships. Some of you have just qualified for NCAA championships. And we know that classes are coming to an end. And for many of you, you're going to have graduation ceremonies and figuring out what's next. And so we wish you all the best during this very, very busy springtime. And thank you so much for joining.